Malta is one of the world's smallest and most densely populated countries. It's been ruled by the Romans, Greeks, Arabs, Normans and the British. So it's a melting pot of cultures. And now that interesting story is on display in Venice and our Miranda Atty is there.
How do you capture a country through art? Especially a country like Malta, which, because of its location between North Africa and Europe, has been ruled by many other powers. According to curators Raphael Vella and Bettina Hutschek, you do it with the help of lots and lots of artists.
The idea of the curators was sort of to narrate some sort of a fleeting identity of the Maltese.
Venice has the oldest art biennale in the world. The first one was held in 1895, but Malta has only exhibited here twice before. And the last time, well, that was 18 years ago. For its third appearance, Malta has put work from 13 artists on display. The pavilion is divided into 19 rather unusual chapters. Each represents a different aspect of Maltese life. They include gender, physical appearance, strangers coming to stay, and subjects to avoid when talking to strangers. There are installations and sculptures, plants and bags. Even the paintings are unique.
I use many different images that I get in books or in markets. I cut papers and then I process, like, it's quite long, and but I mix them all, and I have to wait as it's with oil, and then I do like a collage, and slowly it comes. But I never know how the painting is going to end when I start it.
Perhaps the most controversial section is about religion. Austin Camilleri's Rosary looks at the role of Catholicism in Maltese culture.
Basically, these are baby heads, of course. They are cast aluminium, so the process is quite complicated in the sense that you model, the artist models the head, right? Then it's cast in aluminium, molten aluminium. Then, of course, they are beaded one next to each other with aluminium chains as well. That's basically it.
Aaron Benzinas reimagined the crucifixion. His crucifix serves two purposes. He used it to hammer this nail into the wall before putting the cross on display. Benzina, the youngest artist on show, is optimistic about the country's artistic future.
It's flourishing at the moment, and I see progress every day almost, even though we are limited by various types of boundaries, mostly geographical ones. There are a lot of artists who work hard, and I think I'm one of them. So yes, it's quite an exciting time for Malta.
A Malta pavilion might be a rare sight at the Venice Biennale. But in this appearance, this tiny nation is clearly questioning itself. It's exploring its multiple identities and influences, all while representing itself on an international stage. Miranda Atty, TRT World, Venice.
Miranda joins me now from Venice. Miranda, you've been there for nearly a week now. How has this year compared to other years?
Yes, we have. We've been enjoying it immensely. So this year is actually it's had quite a big contrast with 2015. The main criticism that came out of the 2015 international exhibition was that it was perhaps too political. Some of the media said that it read somewhat like a political manifesto. It covered issues like the refugee crisis and living in a post-colonial world. Whereas, in contrast, this year, the international exhibition, which is curated by Christine Massel, and that's the exhibition that features 120 artists and collectives. The main criticism that we've been hearing about this exhibition is that it's perhaps too apolitical, if anything. Of course, in 2017, we've had loads of major political upheaval. Obviously, Trump has come in to lead the US government, and we've also just recently had French elections. And the fact that all of the 120 artists, pretty much without exception, have chosen not to focus on anything political has been getting a little bit of criticism in the media. On the other hand, people are applauding the fact that really the focus is on humanism, the focus is on art for art's sake, and the focus is on artistic practices. Now, when you come to the National Pavilions, on the other hand, Venice is the only biennale that still uses National Pavilions, and there are 86 on display this year. But the main criticism that we're hearing about the National Pavilions is whether or not they're actually necessary in this day and age. It's very much, a lot of the artists are feeling like they're kind of rebelling against the idea of a National Pavilion, because it's a question of, if you don't necessarily feel represented by your country or by your government, how do you think that you can use art to best represent that country? So all of these issues are kind of being discussed behind the scenes, but of course there's a lot of positivity and everyone is still enjoying the art that's on display.
Another thing that people are talking about is diversity. How do you think it's been this year?
Absolutely. Diversity is always a watchword, and usually we associate it more with the big events like the Oscars, perhaps more film-focused, but we can't get away from it in the art world as well. And so when it comes to diversity, the immediate impression is pretty good. The international exhibition is curated by Christine Massel, and she's only the fourth woman to curate the international exhibition in the Biennale's more than 100-year history. But when you dig down into the figures a little further, it's slightly less heartening. At the moment, the exhibitions are currently predominantly male. 65% of the international exhibition are male artists, only 35% female. Now, this kind of always goes in waves throughout the Biennale. In 2009, it was a much healthier 43%, but in 2013, it was only 26%. It's also worth mentioning that there is no single international art exhibition that has gender parity, so the entire art world has a long way to go when it comes to that. Looking at race, meanwhile, this year's Venice Biennale is not doing quite so well. Of the 120 artists at the international exhibition, only 5 are black, which is absolutely not proportionate. And even worse than that, only one of those is a black woman. So they definitely have a long way to go, although Europe is predominantly represented, but there has been an increase in artists from Asia. So there is some positives, but the art world, and particularly Venice Biennale, still has a long way to go when it comes to fair, diverse representation.
Okay, Miranda Atty in the beautiful Venice. Enjoy your evening.